But as far as your mic this time?
Okay, be quiet for a sec till we get started.
No problem.
Hmm.
It says you're live.
Hey everybody, this is Chris Mills here at Grumpy Roadie, and it is Hump Day. So welcome to Hump Day Hangout. We are gonna do this every Wednesday, 8 p.m. live, and with me will be my, how would you call it? Partner in crime is a good one, Steve. And let's
Hey.
bring in Steve. Okay, and here we go. And
Hey,
welcome,
everybody.
Steve.
Hey, Chris. How you doing, man?
Yeah, been keeping busy. I'm planning a move.
Right on. Yeah, cool.
So, yeah, that's going to be interesting to see.
Moving is always so much fun, right?
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to it. Got to pack up this whole thing and
Yeah. I mean, it'll take you a little while to get everything settled and stuff, but after you are, you know, it might be for the better. Who knows? But it's always a pain in the ass. It doesn't matter what part of life you're in. It's always a pain in the ass.
yeah, well, I got like so much little shit, all the studio gear and stuff. Plus, I wasn't really planning on moving this quickly. It was like a
No, I
spur,
hear that.
but the opportunity came, and it's like financially no brainer. It's good for the dog, and we'll see how it works out for the space for the studio and stuff. That's the one we still
Yeah.
got to figure out. But yeah, anyway, so that's been keeping me kind of occupied and kind of preparing stuff for the show so we don't have like any audio issues like we did in our test run, which
Yeah, it's
hopefully
funny,
nobody really saw because I took it offline very
Nah.
quickly. But it was a good test run. I was able to iron out a few things and figure out a few things. So
Yeah, I mean, we advertised it and stuff, but yeah, there wasn't really a whole lot happening. So,
no,
could call that beginner's luck, I guess, in some respects, right?
yeah, probably it's probably a good way to look at it.
So, yeah, so,
Well, it
geez,
was basically a trial run, right? So now we know
yeah,
what not
exactly.
to do and how to make it work, hopefully. So
Well, barring some, minor things, obviously, even in my home office here or whatever, I should look better than I am. But, sorry, viewers, but my lighting was kind of on the fritz, so that's why I don't exactly look great. But, it is what it is.
yeah,
So,
we'll make it work. It's not the
yeah,
end of the world.
exactly. No, it really isn't. Not in comparison to all the other things going on in the world, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, well,
So, but
I'm almost immune to the general craziness.
yeah, other than the craziness that we, obviously project just out from ourselves.
Well, yeah,
you know,
that's on
so
top of the
that
general craziness. That's the individual
yeah,
craziness, right?
yeah, like that just spouts out of us no matter what we do,
Oh
right? So
yeah,
I mean,
but
there's no avoiding that.
no, that I guess it's an occupational hazard.
Yeah, I would say so. That's for sure. But yeah, I mean, what else are you gonna do, right? So, but you were bringing up an interesting topic, which I thought was kind of interesting. Um, talking about Apple and stuff like that. As far as I guess a Canadian company got busted or something like that for trying
Yeah,
to sell off refurbished parts or something like that. You were mentioning.
yeah. Basically, let me see if I can pull up the web page here. There we go.
Like first and foremost, like you're mentioning, Apple's trying to do this whole green initiative and stuff, and not that I would look down upon that, but you know, facts are facts, and that is that any electronics company is obviously going to have a pretty big footprint when it comes to waste. Period. I mean,
Yeah.
where else? I mean, every company is guilty in some way or another. I mean, after all, where do you think all of our recycled laptops and phones and stuff
Right.
like that
Okay,
go
here,
to?
let's get into this case. Yeah, I got this in front of me here, the webpage. It says
Yeah,
Apple
I
is
see it.
suing former recycling partner GEP Canada for allegedly reselling over 100,000 iDevice it was hired to dispose of.
Oh,
Serious about reducing environmental impact, Apple has been along working to increase renewable resources and recycled materials. As its lawsuit states, the company shipped more than 575,000 iPhones, iPads, watches to GEP Canada for salvaging between January 15 and December 27. When audited, blah blah blah, Apple found some devices were being stored away for resale. About 18% were discovered to be active on carrier networks and non-LTE gadgets, and that number is expected to grow exponentially. So basically, what happens is GEP is contracted to dismantle and destroy these iPhones, basically to throw them away into the landfill after they've been separated in their whatever components. And instead of doing that, the ones that work, they sorted out and resold them back to China or wherever. And
yeah.
Apple is suing them. So basically, what these guys avoided stuff landing in the landfill and reuse it, which theoretically is an environmentally noble and desirable kind of approach to the whole thing, right? And on the other
No,
hand,
absolutely.
in that weird poetic irony, Apple, who's also environmentally conscious and active, is suing them for being environmentally conscious and active. You know,
Yeah, really.
it's kind of like weird. And
It
like
is.
I actually had a look here and about how serious Apple is with its landfill policies. And it turns out Apple is producing more and more waste in the landfill in the last years.
Jesus.
If you look at these graphs here, let me just scroll this up so you can see it with the lower third.
Yeah, we can see it.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. That's,
Right? And
wow.
I mean, they probably use more and more materials, whatever, in the new products they design. I would totally believe that, you know. But at the same time, we got to be aware that this throw away and don't repair policy, creates increasing number of garbages as more and more people are in their 7th or 8th generation iProduct.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, if you're introducing a new product cycle every 2 years, and the obsolete item has to be destroyed and can't be resold, that means you're basically producing stuff for the landfill.
And it's funny that we're talking about this because this is something that I've kind of shared the mentality of as far as when it comes to hybrid vehicles as well. I've looked at them and I've thought about it, but the initial cost alone just of buying a hybrid vehicle, which is considered a premium, is definitely up there. And as much as I'm for lower emissions and everything like that, as far as for the environment, the thing that always kind of catches me off guard whenever I look at anything as far as a hybrid is the whole idea that the battery for the car really does not break down, as much as say like the rest of it does, or like any other car part. Like all the rest of the car is still really ultimately the same. It's just that it operates at low emissions. But that being said, the battery itself would sit, for decades in a landfill and never really break down.
Well, that's the thing, and it contains hazardous material, right? Like,
exactly,
I mean, all these
right?
electronics contain a lot of hazardous materials, and which actually here, let me bring this up as well. This is Apple's hazardous waste produced graph, right?
Yep.
This goes up, and I mean, I'm not like blaming Apple entirely for this. What I'm saying is the entire cultural revolution that the whole iPhone and change in society has resulted from this. Let's put it this way: this constant high cycling of new products, new innovative products. You know, just blind consumerism. Nothing gets fixed; it just gets replaced, and that's kind of driven both manufacturers and consumers into the spiral,
Oh, absolutely.
which
You know,
ends
I
up
mean,
producing more and more garbage unless this stuff can get basically, reused and resold, and thereby reducing the overall market circulation of new products. Otherwise, this kind of graph where it gets steeper and steeper is just going to continue.
well, it is a vicious cycle when you really look at it, because whether you're Samsung, your Apple, or you're any electronics manufacturer, really, it's always about what's going to be on the next version of said product, right? And if you're not releasing that or anything like that, especially where it's not like some software things are not going to be available on your older model, how are you making money, right? To be
Well,
able to keep your
that, but
company going.
yeah, I get it. So that is a balance, and I mean, there's nothing to be said that you can't introduce a new model with a new innovation every few years.
Of
The
course, right?
problem is if your company's philosophy is to make the previous generations obsolete and force them to be turned into garbage instead of
Yeah,
allowing them to be resold and continue life with people who don't necessarily need the latest gen model, because there is people like that, you know what I mean?
of course
And
there
they'll
are.
gladly buy a 1, 2, 3 generation old iPhone because that's all they need if they can save a couple of bucks on buying it.
Yeah, I agree.
Even a
You know,
used one, not a problem. But if Apple doesn't allow resale of your old phone or breaks it or something like that, then that is basically forcing another new product to be made and one more product to end up in the landfill.
one thing that I am not a big fan of when it comes to Apple is that for some of their older devices, and I know that this happened with me with an iPad that I had, is that basically, once you get past a certain version of software within that iPad, say you're keeping up to date on your actual like MacBook or something like that, but you're not updating, your iPad or vice versa or anything like that, it gets to a point where it becomes useless because, like there's only certain things you can really do with it before it will ultimately fail as far as what its operation
Well,
is.
that's what I kind
You
of was
know?
talking about. This engineered obsolescence that's built in, and it's not
Yeah,
necessary. Because you can, unless you have major shifts in your base technology. Like going from Intel to ARM chips, whatever. That in those cases, I understand that certain things that can't be backwards compatible. But if your newest product is just a stronger, faster version of the same last product,
exactly.
then or even just a new version of an operating system, that doesn't suddenly have to deal with double the bit width of CPUs or whatever. Then it's basically by design that you choose no longer to support certain software or certain devices that are legacy or that you don't want to support because you want to sell your new products.
Right. And I mean, Microsoft came out with that, this past year too, basically saying that, they would no longer support anything that was Windows 7 based, basically. Right.
Yeah. Well, I
I
mean,
mean, it,
there is such a thing is called end of life for
yeah,
product
of course.
support. And with an operating system, you can't expect to get full support like customer support after so and so long after its end of life. It's a consumer product, not a corporate product. Where you have contracts basically for maintenance and whatever. As a
Well,
person,
one
as a private person, basically, if I was running Windows 95, let's say, and then comes Windows 2000 and Windows 98 first, and you're 3 or 4 generations later, and 2 technology shifts later, going from 16 to 32, then to 64-bit operating systems, and a span of almost 10 years. You know, to expect like a brand new product that's launching on a new technology platform to support
It's
something that,
unrealistic.
yeah, it's unrealistic, you
Yeah.
know.
And as we all know, as technology moves forward, certain things either get bigger or smaller
Yeah, but
as
I was
far as the
actually,
requirements.
there was one more point I was going to add to that. But there is a difference between letting your customer support for a product run out
Hmm.
and making that product stop functioning. It
Yeah, I
basically
agree.
bricking it, right? Forcefully deactivating it or whatever, locking it down, whatever. You know, there's multiple companies, not only Apple, are known to do this in this day and age,
Of course, because
right?
once again, they need to be able to still make money somehow, right?
Yeah,
So, I mean, like you're talking about end of life or, well, almost kind of forced end of life in some
definitely.
respects,
That's a
you
problem.
know.
You know, like a natural evolutionary end of life, like in software, is totally expected and necessary for progress, right? I totally
Yeah,
get it. You know, at some point when you were at 64-bit operating systems, you know, of course you have to at some point drop 8-bit and 16-bit support for some point because nobody's built a 16-bit CPU in a PC in 25 years.
what I find interesting is that, with all the talks that have happened over the years about, lowering emissions and, garbage footprint and stuff like that, and we know it's a big problem around the world, is that nobody's really looked at technology as far as that's concerned to put any sort of regulation in place, as far as these devices and stuff like that. Now, whether that's, I don't even know if there's really a safe way to really, you know, basically destroy these items or make them reusable of some sort into something else, like
Well,
into a different
the
product
thing
for that
is, I'm
matter.
pretty sure there would be a way, you know, to come to an agreement. The problem is, in every case, the manufacturer would lose some profit or some revenue because inevitably they would end up having to produce less products, and because that's the core element of the solution. If less products are being produced, less wind up in the landfill. That
And that
curve,
goes,
you know, this curve here only only goes up so steeply, not
yep,
because they're using more hazardous materials in their newer products. You know, that has nothing to do with it. They're just
yeah.
simply selling and making more products. So more products end up in the garbage. That's basically it. There's no rocket science to it.
And going back to like the point about like say like a car battery or anything like that, it's there's the same concern I know on my side as far as lithium ion batteries, which are widely used for a
Uh,
number of different
Yeah.
electronic devices, and you got to wonder 20 or 30 years down the road whether we'll actually start to see some environmental impact just from some of that stuff, and what that impact would actually look like.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm sure there is localized studies, you know, on that being conducted all over the world, but and it's probably like really hard to collect enough data to make an actually qualified statement, especially if you only have small regional and localized data, right?
Yeah,
So
no, absolutely.
that's kind of
You
like a
know,
global collaboration on things like that are necessary, you know, until they really have data that's relevant enough to find something.
and unfortunately, the way that things are right now, and the way that we keep up with these different versions of devices and stuff like that, if we cut back on that, that also means it, like you mentioned, like a hit to the manufacturers as far as them producing less. It also means a hit to the economy in some respects too, as for the fact that
Not necessarily.
that
So because here's the thing, it doesn't necessarily just because a company produces less products doesn't necessarily mean they have to employ less people. They just have to allow those people more time to build those products. You know,
well, yeah, I
slow
mean, let's
down the
face it.
manufacturing process, take the stress out of it. You know, have healthier employees, happier employees, and more productive employees. You know, don't force products onto the market or artificially generate demand just so you can sell more products.
That's where,
If you, but that, and I mean, that's a problem where ethics and the need to make money totally conflict. I totally understand it. A corporation or a business primary function is to make money, right?
of course,
That's what it does. Period. There is no and ifs or buts about it. The thing is, how much money do you have to make above what you need to exist and to operate? And at what expense are you willing to push that profit line up beyond basically what's actually necessary for you to operate? Maybe throw up a fair revenue for your shareholders or whatever. But, don't always try to maximize your profits. Like, set yourself a market saturating profit margin, and then try to achieve that as efficiently as possible. And by efficiently, I mean as how can I say this? As careful with your resources as possible, so they last as long as possible. That is not that by that I mean not only natural resources or raw materials, I also mean human resources. Your employees,
unfortunately,
your workers.
that would mean though as well that there would need to be a major shift in our mentality
Of course,
towards
absolutely.
manufacturing, and it is something that really should be examined. But it's an uphill climb. You
Well,
know,
this like this is what I just kind of laid out is a hypothetical construct, a pure mind game, because I know in reality there's one deciding factor that prevents from anything from like that ever occurring, and that is human greed.
exactly.
There is always going to be individuals, no matter how the masses are noble and want to save the world and live in a happy, peaceful, I got enough, I don't need a third yacht kind of mindset. Uh, but there's always going to be individuals that are just greedy and want to take advantage of the fact that everybody else is not greedy.
Yeah,
You
yeah. No,
know,
well said.
that's
And
that's human nature, and that's always the problem. And you can only change that, like I said, mentality a little bit at a time.
that's very true because trying to do a major shift where you try and outlie something, for the greater good of everybody, ultimately will lead to a massive pushback from people as far as saying, "Fuck that! I'm not going to do that. Why would I do that?" And that's why you're right about it being gradual. But it concerns me for the fact that there really doesn't seem to be any steps in place even to get to a goal like that.
Of course
Ultimately,
not.
say in like 20 or 30 years.
Quite the opposite,
No,
because our modern corporations are just getting bigger. They're trillion-dollar corporations. Basically,
exactly.
corporations have become, but de facto, the governing power structure of the globe. Political borders have become secondary.
You're right. Because once again, it's become more about, even not even countries. It's more about corporations than it is about countries.
Yeah.
And we're getting awfully philosophical here. That's for sure.
Yeah, but hey,
But
that's the kind of point, we're just kind of hanging out. That's the whole idea of this
yeah,
show, that we can kind of just, it's kind of like hanging out at the boys' club and just chatting and having a drink and a smoke and,
yeah. Well, like I said, I was out earlier today, actually on site for something, which was kind of odd.
yeah, how was
By
that?
on site, I just mean another warehouse, really.
Well,
But
that is a start, right?
yeah, no, no, no. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of companies that are doing stuff like that to try and keep things going and keep them, head above water. And it's very, very tough to do it. But there are some companies out there that are definitely doing it. And I know it's something that you and I kind of talked about personally last week. Is the sad news coming out of Westbury National as
Yeah,
far as everything, and now there seems to be trouble on the horizon too. Even though I haven't had any confirmation, it might just be a financial restructuring or something like that. But there are indications there as well from Ashton White. and it sucks just for the fact that it feels like it's become a guessing game as far as like
Well, but here's
or
the
the
thing
Hunger
is,
Games, like which is the next one that's going to be tribute, like
from
fuck.
here's the thing. From what I understand, uh, Ashton White is not gone into receivership or anything. They're just basically shedding excess weight and selling off old gear or gear that doesn't get rented out.
I really hope that's the case.
At
I
least
really do.
that's what I've heard,
Yeah, me
in the
too.
grapevine from people who have more interactions with that company than I do.
Yeah, I can't say I have a ton of interaction either.
And
I
honestly,
did reach out.
like I have to say, so far what I've seen in my research online, that seems to be the case because all you see is gear on auctions. There is no articles about receiverships or bankruptcies or
I checked the same thing too, and I didn't. I came up empty as far as that's concerned. So I really hope that that is the case, and that
yeah. But
the wheels are
for
still moving a little
Westbury,
bit.
I found a receivership thing in the
Yeah.
Insolvency Insider.
Yep. Yep. I found the same thing as well. So and it's I work with a couple people that were just at Westbury not all that long ago that happened to come over to where I currently work, and
Yeah. Well, guess what?
despite the fact that they left, they're still very sad about it.
I know I'm part of the Westbury alumni group because I worked there for a couple of years as well. Back in whatever, a couple of years ago. Let's not get into details.
What are you trying to maintain your youthful glow there or something, or what's going on?
Well, totally. Come on. I work hard to continue to look like 27.
Yeah, by growing that big bushy white beard. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, you're
I'm
right.
just teasing. I'm just teasing.
Yeah, but
We know that your razor and your scissors broke years ago. It's cool.
no, actually, this actually started out as a bet, and then basically turned into my personal lockdown quarantine survival strategy. Because
So just
basically, I said, like, I won't cut my beard or trim my beard until this pandemic is basically under control and we can start working again,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Plus, and that on the benefit or secondary benefit of this is that means I can probably work as a mall Santa at Christmas, because the industry isn't back yet.
Well, okay, but as long as you make sure that you're taking your smoke breaks in front of kids, and you still have like a fully, a big full flask,
Yeah.
so that you could take
Mommy,
sips
that
between kids
Christmas
sitting
tree
on here.
looks funny. I've never seen a
Yeah.
Christmas tree like that, Mommy. Why is Santa smoking the Christmas tree?
Why does one of your kids look like a fucking reindeer? Jesus, man, that's weird. And then I know it's not just because you have an ugly kid. Come on. Yeah, I have to wonder now too. Speaking of big, large gatherings and stuff like that. Like I know that it was posted a while back that the annual Santa Claus parade for Toronto is going to be a virtual event.
Right.
But once again, you talk about a mall Santa and the whole gathering aspect and stuff like that. I can't imagine that there actually would be a mall Santa thing this year, specifically because of COVID.
Yeah, you know what? Honestly, probably not. Like I should be so lucky. Let's put it that way, right?
Yeah,
But yeah,
yeah.
no, I find it very unlikely that that some mama is gonna let her kid run up to some strange man and sit on his lap and have him breathe on her.
As a kid too, like I would think that something like this right now, not being able to go visit Santa, which for some was a tradition for many many years.
Yeah,
I would think that that illusion would be shattered a little bit because it's like, oh, because Santa seems awfully magical, right? So the
yeah, no, for
idea that
sure.
that he could get COVID and get sick, especially for the fact that he's old
Well, I
and
mean, you'd have to construct a story that works in his benefit. Basically, like saying because so many people can't go out and are in quarantine right now, he had to change his delivery method.
That's right, and there you go. So there's a
right?
challenge for Coca-Cola, who came up with the character in the first place.
Yeah, no,
You're gonna
so
you're gonna need to write.
basically he's telling the kids, no, no, stay home. I'll come visit you at your house.
Yeah,
I'll pop in. I'll FaceTime you because I can't come. Because of the lockdown.
yeah,
And then you just have this campaign where kids can FaceTime the like a call center of telesantas.
yeah, yeah. You could
Where
do that.
basically the
Sure.
kids email them their Christmas list, and then you kind of call back the kid or FaceTime the kid back and kind of go like, oh, so Steven, what you wanted a bicycle? This kind of thing. It'd be easy
Santa,
to
how
do.
did
It'd
you
be a
know?
great way to get some work, for unemployed Santas.
True. It would be something to see, that's for sure. And
Yeah,
you
and
know,
if I
we there was no thought of that obviously last Christmas because this was nothing that was of concern to us back then.
yeah, I don't think anybody thought of that. I mean, I didn't think of it until 35 seconds ago.
Yeah, well, I mean, I wouldn't have thought of it unless you hadn't mentioned your beard and the whole Santa thing to begin with. So there
Yeah,
you go.
that's how we
It's your
got.
fault.
Yeah, but now we have a solid business idea. So if I see anybody doing it, can I sue them for it?
Well,
Because
I
we
don't
have
know.
video
Yeah,
evidence of how it came into existence.
that's right. You have to patent it now. So,
Yeah,
but Jesus, I feel bad, especially for, the parents of kids that are at such a young age that, they're not even really knowing what technology is or anything like that. And they're just
yeah,
being brought up, with the idea of a Santa Claus and everything. And yeah, it's sad, and it's the same thing too, where, we have Halloween coming up and, I still see a lot of decorations on my street as far
yeah.
as the houses and stuff like
And I mean,
that.
there's
And I
nothing
think a
wrong
lot
with
of,
decorations. That's fine.
not at all. Not at all. But the idea of, no, we don't want our kids to go out and, possibly get infected or anything like that or transmit. I totally get that.
Yeah, and it
But
is a
like
common
shit, man.
sense, but then it's a common sense thing to do, obviously. But yeah, I hear what you're saying. Like the kids don't really understand the logic of it, right?
But it's a holiday based on wearing a fucking mask. Come
Yeah,
on. Like
yeah,
now
but
of
I
all
mean,
times would be the time to wear a mask.
I'm sure there would be a way to safely do it. If you keep the kids apart from each other, and you basically, you have a way of dispensing candy safely, like a slide or a pipe. You could make a little candy slide down your porch. So a single kid walks up to the bottom of the slide, and you throw some candy on the slide, and they just hold their bag underneath it.
I know my wife was talking about buying a t-shirt cannon exactly for that kind of same
Yeah.
purpose.
Well, no, or a piece of,
You know,
like a 10-foot piece of PVC drain tubing. Like 5-inch
yeah,
tubing, PVC tubing. Mount that on
yeah.
on your handrail on your porch staircase. You know.
And you could hear that little sound when you hit the button or something like that. And then it goes into your bag just. Bloop.
Yeah, I mean, you can throw it in the bag handful by handful. You staying up on top of your porch.
Yeah,
Kids
true
can't,
enough.
kids don't even come to the bottom of the steps. They just go to the end of that pipe. And you can decorate that with a big, I don't know, styrofoam skull that is spitting out the candy kind of thing. If you wanted to,
Uh,
or whatever other crazy, stupid ideas you had.
well, yeah, I do have definitely crazy and stupid ideas. There's no doubt about that. But the one thing I definitely would not want to see as far as anybody's Halloween decorations is stickers saying 6 feet apart, like on like the sidewalk or on your front porch or anything like that. I mean,
Yeah,
don't get me wrong. It's important, the social distancing and all that kind of stuff to try and, have us remain healthy and all that kind of stuff. But man, like for something like that, it's just like, can't we just have one day, where we don't have to necessarily
yeah, but
look at that?
that would with one day you could undo the months and months of suffering. You know what I mean? Of distancing and all that. All it takes is
I
one spreader,
completely agree.
but
Yeah, I
it's a
completely agree.
heartbreaking reality, especially for kids. I mean, there's plenty of
Yeah,
adults that don't understand the rationale of it.
it's just my own fatigue that's talking here. Really,
Well, yeah, we're
it's
all
not that
sick
I.
and tired of this. You know what I mean? But that doesn't
Yeah,
change the fact, Mother Nature doesn't give a flying fuck if we're sick and tired of it.
and that's why I love the picture that you actually, I think, posted on your Facebook account in the past day or so of a picture of, I think it was, a truck being loaded and basically
Yeah,
saying like, this is what happens, before you go to your show and after you go to your show, and all these people are out of work, and all the behind the scenes stuff that, obviously is a huge backbone for the entertainment industry that is, full stop right now indefinitely in a
yeah,
lot of respects because there's really no timeline as far as getting any of this stuff back, and you know it maddens me a little bit to hear some people also talk about, oh, I bet you like down in the States after the election is done things are going to just open way back up and stuff. It's like, if that's the case, then what the hell is wrong with you? Like there aren't enough problems already, and I mean, it sucks that there's been such a major uptick of cases, even here in Ontario. But, we're not talking about that. If anything, we're scaling back right now. The GTA and Toronto and Ottawa, as far as I know, have all gone back to what we call stage two, as far as, the COVID thing. And, we were at stage three, but guess what? It got too out of control. And
yeah.
so here we are back here again. And this is
Here's
not where
that.
anybody wanted to be.
Here's that
But
picture you were talking about. The one with the guys loading the truck. Let me just get rid of the lower third here real quick.
yeah, exactly. You know, I mean, for guys that have been in the industry as long as you and I, that was just pretty much the beginning and end of our day, every single day,
For sure.
and it's strange. Like at one point, it's like, yeah, I don't really miss loading a truck, but at the same time, I do, you know, and
Well,
just
the thing is, at some point, and that's what a lot of people outside of the industry can't can't wrap their head around. At some point, it starts out as a job, that you do occasionally, and a lot of people do that, like stagehand or whatever, and then it becomes a profession,
yep.
and then it
I mean,
becomes a career,
I
and then
think you
it
would find
becomes
there's a
a
lot of
way of life.
yeah. I
And
think you
then
would
it
find there's a
becomes,
lot of
no,
people
hang
out
on,
there.
there's a final stage because then it
All
becomes
right,
who you are, right?
very true.
It's like, let's take, for example, an athlete, right? Somebody who dedicates their entire life to being the fastest skater or the quickest runner or the longest jumper. That's what they are. That's their defining characteristic. I'm a marathon runner, you know? I'm a hockey player. That's who they are. It's not just what they do. You know, at some point in the career level. A
Well
lot of
said.
people play football for fun and it's not a career. But a lot of people, it becomes their life, it becomes who they are, right? And the same goes for people in the entertainment industry. It's a way of life. It becomes who you are, and you can't just stop being that,
Completely agree.
right?
And as well, some of us, like myself, never started out with the intention of really being in this industry, but found themselves in this industry and just loving it to become who we are today. 20 or 30 some odd years later for some of us. And I wouldn't trade that for anything. There's
Yeah.
no way I would.
So let me ask you a question. Was there like a point in your life where you made a conscious decision? Okay, this is what I'm gonna make my career. Because
Yeah, there was. Yeah, there
what
absolutely
was your
was.
stages like what were the steps in your career development where you took the next step up the seriousness ladder of what you're doing, like from basically the weekend stagehand that works once in a while show, to the lifer kind of thing.
Well, for me, it was a very different journey as far as that's concerned. Like when I came out of school, and I had gone through for audio engineering, I was looking for some sort of gig, just basically
Okay, yeah,
to pay
but you
back my
went you
student
went to
loans.
school for audio engineering, so you already went to school with
Yes,
the purpose of being an audio guy, right?
right,
Okay, so
right.
yeah, so at that
However,
point of your career, you already had made a conscious decision to pursue that avenue. That's the kind of what I wanted to figure out. At what point did you choose to pursue that avenue of work?
However, my initial thought was that I wanted to work in a recording studio because I was young and green, to think that, hey, if I get trained in something like this, maybe one day I'll be mixing the albums that people are listening to, and
Yeah, of
be
course.
as famous as some of those people, and not realizing at the time that as much as you put yourself out there and stuff like that, and volunteer, sometimes it just doesn't lead to what you want.
Yeah,
And in the interim, you need to find other methods of paying your bills. And so even though it's not where I really wanted to end up, as far as when I first got into it, once I was here, there was really no going back for me. I started off as like a hotel rep or whatever, once I kind of came into the live event industry, and then I saw kind of what was going on around me, and I was just like, okay, well, the last thing I want to be doing is writing up orders and stuff like that, to and haggling about prices. Like, that's never been me to begin with. But as far as setting up the gear and operating it and learning about it, that's always been what I've wanted to do. So,
right,
and then it just came from there that I moved out of that position into more of an operator role. And once I got my taste of that for the first year or so, I was hooked, and that was it. For me, it was like, okay, this is awesome. This is what I want to do. This is a challenge for me every single day, both
right,
physically and mentally, and sometimes emotionally too. Let's face it. But even though there's obviously obstacles that we all have to overcome, as far as those of us that are in this industry, when it comes to travel and maintaining personal relationships and stuff like that. And I've been divorced once myself, but you know what? I wouldn't change a damn thing. I would not change a damn thing. And that includes the divorce too, because otherwise I would never be with my current wife, who I was really supposed to
yeah.
be with.
Well,
But
I've developed the philosophy where I tell myself sometimes targets are not to define where you want to end up. They're just there to define the path along which you can make new discoveries.
I love it. I love it. And sometimes too, just
They're
like
like waypoints, That's not you're not where you're necessarily meant to end up. It just tells you what direction to walk in to find where you really want to go.
sometimes too, like with trips, sometimes it's not always about getting there, but sometimes getting there is part of the best part.
The
You
journey is
know?
everything.
Yeah.
That's why like it's all about what happens to you along the journey, what opportunities, what discoveries, what knowledge, what growth. And all that only happens on a journey. If you stay still, that none of that happens.
Yep. Yep.
You
And it
know?
was funny when I was out there today. So I ended up getting a crew meal, which I haven't had in quite some time, but I have had a couple in the past month or so, right? But it's so strange now, because before, when you're at a venue and stuff like that, let's face it, as crew, we get fed like the worst of the worst. It's always, the shit that they've got left over or whatever. There's not many venues, if you talk to anybody in this industry, that you would say, man, like, yeah, I would love to work there again, because like they actually look after their crew and make sure that like the food is fresh and stuff like that. I mean, that's not what they're in business for. It never has been, But now, when we've got virtual events that are happening at some of the production companies' offices and stuff like that, which are not set up as venues, now there's been a big uptick as far as event catering, and so now we're actually getting like the same meals and stuff like that the clients are getting, which is fantastic. And it doesn't really happen very often unless you're doing
No.
like an evening gala or something like that, where they're like, sure, we'll just give you another plate of this,
Well, it
and
depends.
that's great.
I found it depends largely on the client, but you're right. It used to happen a lot more back in the olden days. Haha.
Yeah, and there was a trend there where it just kind of separated as far as that was concerned, and for me, like when I really first noticed it, it was like around 2007, when everything kind of fell out with the economy and stuff like that. And that's when a lot of things that were considered perks back then and stuff like that stopped.
It's
We
ironic.
were,
That's the year I moved to Canada.
hey, well, there you go, right?
Maybe it's
But
my fault.
you and yeah, of course, it's all your fault, Chris.
Totally.
But you and I were even talking the other day about the swag that we used to get on site and
Yeah.
such for different gigs, and how much like back in that early 2000 era and stuff like that, it was pretty high, as far as the stuff that you could walk away with. And then as soon as the bottom dropped out in 2007 and then recovering back into the next couple of years, all that disappeared. And I'm really not complaining. I get it, because chances are they were probably spending way too much money on certain things that they really shouldn't have been in the first place.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
But
I
it's just
have no
odd.
comparison how it was before I got here.
Okay, so it was not like that in Germany at all
Well,
when you were
Germany,
when
no, Germany was different. Basically, there wasn't really that much of a down in the economy noticeable. Like
really.
I was working primarily, especially like in the early 2000s, the late or second half of the 90s and the first half of the 2000s were actually a really, really busy time for me. I was touring all over the place, pretty much with rock and roll clients and corporate clients. I did like the Athens Olympics, the Lisbon Soccer World Cup and shows like that. I did a couple of tours with German artists, with a couple of European artists. So I kept me really busy. And then, what happened? And then like I think probably around 2003, I made the big mistake to come home early from a gig to try to save my relationship at home.
Mm. I think we've all
And
been there at one point or another.
yeah, and that
Yep.
completely backfired both ways. Not only did I lose the girl, but also lose my gig. Basically, my client was pretty unhappy about it. Despite the fact that I had already done my job, everything was up and running. I was basically just there in case something breaks down again. But I knew the guys on site could handle it, so it wasn't really that bad. But yeah, my client wasn't happy about it. And yeah, so basically then for a couple of years I managed this outdoor beach club, which was a lot of fun and a nice break from
Uh-huh.
touring.
I bet.
Yeah, I lived on a beach basically for 2 years. Really good time. And then I moved to Canada.
Hmm.
Yeah, well, basically, then
Well,
my grandma died and left me a little bit of cash. Enough anyway to move across the ocean and start new.
so was that always your intention that at some point you would move to Canada? Like, was that a dream of yours?
Well, I mean, I was born Canadian, right? I just never made
Yeah.
it to Canada, ironically. But like, I'm a classic military brat. The thing is, I wasn't really intending to move to Canada with that money. I thought I was going to do a nice little trip, come over here, get my paperwork straightened out, and then like travel across the country, kind of get in touch with my Canadian roots, kind of thing.
Sounds nice.
I landed in Toronto, and on day two, I'm walking around and said, "Holy fuck, everybody's like me here." For the first time, I felt like I belonged because, like, living in Germany, I never really fit in completely, if that makes sense. I always was a little too courteous, too considerate, too polite, and Germans couldn't really deal with that. So
That's that's so funny because from my own travel experiences of going to Germany, one of the nicest and most polite place that I ever visited, as far as the people, was in Berlin.
oh yeah,
And
Germans can be really, really nice and polite at heart. The thing is, what a lot of people don't understand that society in Germany is a little bit more of a elbow mentality.
mm,
Like basically when a bus stops and the doors open, here people will politely more or less line up in two lines, let the people come out and go in. In Germany, there's basically like a grape of people at that door trying to rush in and push each other, and like a bunch of puppies trying to get milk.
you see that in a lot of societies, as
Yeah, no,
far as
that's what I mean. There is
public
different
transit.
types of
Yeah.
societies, and it's not necessarily a negative or thing about a society. It's just a characteristic of the way that society functions. And it's no ill will behind it. That's just the way it works. Not everybody stands in a queue for hours, politely double fold over.
Yeah.
So,
No, I
but
hear you.
yeah, and that kind of thing, has a lot of other implications as well. Like Germans, if they smile at you, they mean it. They won't, you won't get that fake smile from the waitress or the salesperson, who's kind of thinking, "I'll kiss my fucking ass. I just spit in your coffee." You know what I mean? You don't get that. Somebody, if they don't like you, they won't smile at you. They'll do their job proficiently, a waiter, for example, or whatever, right? But he won't. He'll be just straight, neutral, correct. But that's it. No smile, nothing, right?
Remind me that if you ever get a job in a restaurant, to never eat there.
Oh yeah.
Not that you would, but
Like I said, I managed this outdoor bar beach club for about 2 years. It was a lot of fun. I was also bartending a lot there.
there you go.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and we
that
had a
sounds like
pretty
fun.
cool concept. Me and my co-manager, we basically came up with this Highlander biker pirate theme vibe. Yeah, so basically
Okay.
our work outfits were kilts and basically our sleeve cut off biker shirts. A lot of jewelry and chains and stuff like that, but barefoot in the sand. And yeah, I still had long hair, and my buddy, we both still had long hair back then. So it worked. The look actually worked, and
Okay, now there's something that we need to dig up some photos from the past to be able to show some people about that. Not necessarily right now, but
oh, why
and
not?
when you said Highlander, originally I wasn't even thinking kilt. I was thinking of like you with a fucking sword up in the air and saying there can be only one bar at the beach. I don't fucking know.
No, this
you know.
actually, we actually had TV come visit us one time because we made it to the number one hotspot in the city after like 3 months of opening with that concept.
Ooh, wow,
And
that's
yeah,
cool.
we were like crazy busy. So local TV came by. Okay, where are we at here?
That must have been fun to be kind of part of something like that.
Yeah,
You
there's
know.
also like a mini documentary my girlfriend at the time made.
Oh wow.
That was kind of nice. Come on, did I not connect to that drive yet? Oh boy.
Well, while you're looking for that, I would like to kind of send out a word about some of the great things that have been happening in the AV world. Um, we got Tony Cree that did Tex and Need, which, as I understand, I think on one of his postings that he's not doing any for the next little while. But for anyone that doesn't know what that was, it was basically he was having these kind of like mornings where there was like jam sessions at Long and McQuaid, different locations throughout Ontario, which was a really great cause to try and kind of bring attention to the live events industry. And as well, we just had light up the night. That was done nationwide. They already did one, obviously, back in August in the states, and there was multiple different organizations that were behind that to try and get the attention of everybody to say, hey, like we're out of work and we're suffering here, and it's been, I know, a real point of contention as far as that's concerned. Trying to get the attention that really needs to be noticed. As far as the people that are behind the productions that you like, more than just the thought of when you're on your phone and saying, oh yeah, I guess I can't go to Ticketmaster, or anything like that because there's just nothing to do, you know. Well, like a real stray thought like that, as far as nothing to do equals hundreds of thousands of jobs that are
Yeah.
lost, and so I had to bring that up or whatever because I mean we have talked about it and everything like that, and kudos to everybody that put themselves out there to be able to make these events successful and to draw attention to where it was desperately needed.
Yeah, definitely. I just, I hope the right people took notice of it and let's see if something comes of it. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah, and it's really hard to know where to target that. I think in some respects, the people that we need to target are the ones that are the hardest sells, to be able to get what we're really looking for. You can easily go into the arts community and, and plug away as far as looking for support from that, but they're already sympathetic to what we already go through on a daily basis in some respects. And they're suffering in a different way as well. There's a lot of things that have been canceled for artists throughout all of Canada. That people rely on being able to have public gatherings to be able to make their living, whether you're a musician, you're an artist. whatever the case,
Yeah, I mean, it's not only Canada. Let's be honest. It's the entire
oh yeah, it's
planet.
the
You know what
entire
I mean?
world. It's the entire world, and yeah, it's just funny because you know, I've seen an article or two on the news here and there, but it's and not to say that it should be dominating the headlines or anything like that. I mean, obviously there are other things that need to dominate the headlines right now. As far as the pandemic is concerned, let's not even get into American politics as far as that's concerned, because
Right.
we know that how much that dominates the headlines right now too. Like, quite frankly, I can't wait for November 3rd to be done in some respects.
Well, yeah, I
You
just
know,
read what could happen,
ugh,
but I don't even want to get into that right now because,
no, no, there is no time for that, because that in itself is practically an episode all to itself.
yeah.
And I think our viewers already kind of have a pretty good indication as far as what we really think about what's happening with that. I don't think we have much of a poker face when it comes to that.
No, probably not. Probably not.
But what's the point of having a poker face on a channel like Grumpy Roadie? I mean, we're here to be outspoken.
Well, that's the
That's
whole
that's our
point.
whole thing.
We're trying to be honest here. It's like
Yeah, yeah.
it's a no bull zone. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And hey, so if you guys are out there looking at this and saying, well, hey, I got some stuff I'd like to say and some opinions I'd like to express, then get a hold of us. I mean, there's multiple ways you can get a hold of us. We've got our Facebook page, we've got an actual website, www.grumpyroadie.com, which
Yeah.
admittedly is,
Our
it's
Discord
all kind of
server
under
is up and
construction.
running as well, so I'm gonna probably end up putting a link for the
Yeah.
Discord invite into the comments of this video and
And,
links to the other stuff, hopefully.
And once again, like, if you got something to say, we're looking for contributors. We want to hear your voice. We want to hear your take on things. Chris comes from more of a rock and roll background. I come from a corporate background. There is so many other sections of the industry that we try to do our best to be able to represent, but unless you live it day in, day out, we'll never completely represent it. So let's hear from you. We need your input so that your industry and your side of it is represented. So I urge you, I implore you, please contact us. We would love to hear from you.
Well, plus honestly, we got a lot of basically job openings. I'd like to say, but since we don't have any money and we're all
Yeah,
volunteering for
well,
this. But yeah, we got
but
a
think
lot of positions to fill. Let's put it that way.
but
To
think
make
of
this
it
grow.
think of it as giving back to your community, as
Well,
far
yeah,
as
but
the
we need people to volunteer to help promote the shows. Like Steve and I can work on making the shows, but it would be a lot easier if we had people, who send in subjects or articles that they found that they think we should talk about, or just drop into the chat and let us know, that we can interactively talk about shit. That's the whole point of Hump Day Hangout. So it's supposed to be an interactive thing. But the channel
and who knows.
itself, we can use writers. We can basically use community managers that are good with Discord servers, with Twitch, with Facebook and all that to kind of keep up those pages updated to what's happening on the channel.
And who knows, you might end up finding out that when you get involved with us, that all of a sudden in the broadcast that you're seeing right now, there's a third pip and your face is in the middle of that pip. you know, but
Yeah, who
but that's
knows?
cool by us, right? Because we don't always want it to be just Chris and I that are spouting off. We know that there's a lot of other people out there that want to share their experiences, and that's what we're looking for. So, anyways, I've said my piece about that. And Chris, I do see that we are getting close on time. So, do you have any final thoughts for tonight?
Not really. Well, we're at the hour mark. We don't necessarily have to stop at the hour mark, but I mean, I didn't really have anything serious I needed to talk about, anyways. Like I said, we're just chilling and hanging out and shooting the shit kind of thing.
Yeah,
But
no,
yeah,
absolutely.
another thing I noticed is there is apparently some big art exhibition thing happening in Toronto with projections and stuff like that, art installations.
As far as projection on buildings,
Yeah, or outdoor
nice.
projections or whatever that nobody knows about because they're not promoting it because they don't want crowds.
I
And
was thinking.
it was basically, it was done without involvement of production companies, to my knowledge. Basically, it was
Really?
sponsored by Panasonic and was installed by city workers and some staffing company with a rigging tool in their logo.
You know, one event that I was thinking of just the other day that obviously didn't happen this year was Nuit Blanche,
Yeah,
which
of
is
course,
obviously
it's
one that I don't think there's a tech in the industry that hasn't had their fingerprints on that at least one point or another.
I spent many a cold night babysitting a projection, you know, like
Oh
very
yeah,
long cold nights in the weirdest spots in the city.
but one of the most unique events that happens in this city, and you know, when it happens in other places around the world too, which was kind of the cool part about it, because it was supposed to be like a full 24-hour cycle, if I remember correctly, about the event itself. You know, happening as far as arts representation, which also kind of went hand in hand with technology, which was awesome. You know, and as much as you know, we have our nightmares of Nuit Blanche. And as far
Yeah,
as everything goes along with it, at the end of it, I gotta say, I'm still glad at the end of the day that at least I did a couple in the time that I've been in this industry. You know,
definitely.
because it certainly lends to the stories, and you know, if anything,
Yeah.
it's a great experience. And I know that the people that run it have always done a fantastic job too
Yeah, I
of
mean,
organizing
outdoor,
it
you
and
know,
everything
outdoor
like that.
projections are usually fun because they're challenging to the environmental conditions. You know, due to that, you're usually doing them in a location that was absolutely not designed to do it. This, you know,
Yeah, no
so that
kidding,
that
right?
makes it kind of fun. And like I remember one that I did during my Westbury days, which was a lot of fun. It was a projection on the outside of the Royal Ontario Museum. They had a Pompeii exhibition, and we were basically projecting on the all these angled surface of this crystal shaped building with the, I think it was 8 projectors or something like that, and we are projecting basically the volcano slowly developing over weeks to the day of the
That's awesome.
eruption where the opening of the exhibition was, right, to hype
Yeah,
it
no,
up.
that's awesome.
And the funny thing is we had like a whole bunch of subs set up as well, like across the street from the museum, with just like a very low bottom end rumble, you know, kind of to represent the the volcano getting ready. And every time one of those rumbles came in, people started to open their umbrellas and look into the sky where the storm was coming from. It was so
what I
hilarious. We were getting a big
what I
laugh
was
out of that.
what I always loved about that show too is that like you would do the strangest things or whatever with just typical AV stuff. I remember one time or whatever, I can't remember what exactly the exhibit was. I think it was like chainsaw art or something like that, as
Oh,
far
that
as like
sounds
carving
interesting.
stuff, you know, and that's cool. But like one of the things they wanted was like which I think I ended up doing with, I think it was like a lavalier mic that was basically clipped to someone's like, you know, cuff is what it
Right.
was, so that every single time they revved the chainsaw, and I had it gated so basically it would only come out whenever like it was at full volume, and it would just scare the shit out of people as they would walk past. Because all of a sudden it was just like be completely quiet, and then all of a sudden, rung, and you know people were like, "What the fuck is that?" So yeah, it's little things like that. It was always really fun, and you know,
I
artists have the craziest ideas. I love it. You know.
totally. I had to do an installation in an art museum in Germany years ago, and it was a whole bunch of small projectors, like basically boardroom projectors and screens, and they're all arranged basically floating in midair in a lying helix that would go through the room in expanding diameter, basically, right? And I had to get
That
them
sounds
all at
fun.
different angles to kind of meet the thing. So it was like a rigging masterpiece. Not a lot of weight because the projector was like 10 pounds and the screens were lightweight. But just from a point of, yeah, I forgot to mention there was a underhung ceiling in that museum with a maximum load of, I think, 10 pounds per point, right?
Wow,
So I
that's
basically had to bridle the shit out of this thing to get these projectors and screens to float in midair into the positions and angles this guy was. I spent 2 weeks in that place till he was happy, and it was like one of the craziest rigging things. But afterwards, you know, it's like you understand how a point moves in space if you change the position, angle, and length of different ropes. It is fascinating.
It's funny that sometimes some of those experiences can be some of the more difficult ones, but by the time you're done with it, you end up finding out that they also can be some of the most fulfilling ones too. Because
Yeah.
you learned, you learn a little bit about yourself. You sometimes have to learn some new skills to be able to figure out how you're going to pull this thing off.
Those are the most
And
rewarding ones for sure. Yeah, when you have to
yeah,
overcome your own limitations to make it work.
yeah,
And sometimes,
absolutely, and that's
you
how you
just have
grow.
some that are just like pure stupid fun, like having the Micah Harley Davidson at a biker festival for a burnout competition.
Nice.
They're
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, we're gonna have a burnout competition with 4 Harleys, and we need a 58 on each of the exhausts.
Oh my
And they
God.
literally smoked their tires on stage like till they blew, right?
Wow.
And 40,000
Good times.
bikers were cheering in front of the stage, staring at our screens.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man. Well, dude, I could go on all night, but I've got some chicken wings here that I haven't really been munching on. That I said I would, but I just haven't.
Nice.
And I gotta eat, baby.
Yeah,
So
I
yeah.
actually got to make some dinner now too. That since you remind me, so that's
Well, there you go.
probably
Right.
yeah.
So
So I would say I'm gonna play our little Hump Day intro short again and sign off as well. And
all
just
right.
remind everybody, subscribe to our page, like and subscribe. Make sure you click the notification bell so you get notified when we go live. We'll be doing this every Wednesday, same time, same bad place, whatever. Yeah, send us stuff, email whatever you want to talk about, or tune in and tell us online in the chat.
Sounds
Okay.
good, man. I'll
On
see you
that,
next Wednesday. All right.
yep, I'll see you next Wednesday. Have a good one.
You too, man. See ya.
Take care.